Okay, the AirPods Max 2. Well, firstly, in terms of the design and the build, there's very little to say, of course. They're identical in appearance and in build and so on to the original ones. No difference at all. Apart from these, of course, have the USB-C port, which the original ones didn't have. But of course, they introduced that USB-C, was it last year, with a slight update. The main difference, of course, with these now is the inclusion of the H2 chip, which has been in the AirPods Pro. I think it was in the second generation, but certainly in the third generation. And that, of course, brings those additional features like conversation awareness, live translation, adaptive audio, things like that. So really, there's nothing else to say about the build quality. It's still excellent. I mean, I really like the AirPods Max. I know some people, and I think they're a bit heavy and uncomfortable. I must admit, I've never found that wearing them. I find them very comfortable. I don't find them too heavy on my ears, and the overall build quality, of course, typical of Apple, is extremely good. There's nothing flimsy about these headphones. And I think they look great. So that's just the same. They do also have a new what Apple calls a dynamic range amplifier, which is meant to improve the sound quality. And the other thing that's the same, of course, is the price. They're still £499 here in the UK, which is pricey. Some people think that it's too high. Well, I'll say something about that at the end. Okay, let me start with, I think, for me, and I think for most people, is the most important thing. How do they sound? What's the sound quality like? Well, of course, it was excellent on the original ones. I've always thought that the AirPods Max sounded great, and I think pretty much every other reviewer agreed with that. Is it even better now with this better amplifier? I think it is. I think there is a definite improvement in clarity, in bass response. As I say, it's not dramatic because they sounded fantastic to my ears anyway before. But I think there's some improvement, which is to be welcomed. Of course, these AirPods Max 2, the same as the first gen with the USB-C port, can play lossless audio when you use the USB-C cable, of course, not wireless. And that's, of course, up to 24-bit 48 kilohertz. So it's not the real high res, but what can you say? It's lossless audio, and it's above normal CD quality. Now, is the sound quality vastly superior with wired rather than wireless? Well, again, no. I think there is some improvement, but certainly to my ears, which are pretty good, I think it's fairly marginal. But I think there is some slight improvement in the sound quality. So again, that's something that I'm quite pleased with. One thing I think definitely has improved noticeably, again, not dramatically, but noticeably, is spatial audio, particularly Dolby Atmos. I found listening to Dolby Atmos Apple Music files, there's a definite improvement there in terms of the sound separation and the feeling that the sound is sort of more around you rather than purely stereo. I've enjoyed listening to Dolby Atmos music files a lot more with these than I did with my original ones. Again, my originals were okay, but I definitely think that these are noticeably better in that regard. So overall, the sound quality is still excellent. It's, I don't think anybody would be disappointed with these headphones in terms of listening to their music. And of course, for listening to, watching movies or TV shows that have surround sound, that have Dolby Atmos, again, that's really good. Although I must admit, I primarily, almost 99% of the time, use these headphones for listening to music. That's what I wanted them for. That's what I really use them for. But I know a lot of people will also use them for watching movies, perhaps, and it could be their main headphone for that. Now, the other claim that Apple has made about these new AirPods Max 2 is in regard to active noise cancellation. They've made the same, because it's the H2 chip, they've made the same claim that they did with the AirPods Pro 3, that the noise cancellation is 1.5 times better. Not sure, how they actually measure that. There obviously would be some metric. So what do I think about that? Well, I have to say, I think I agree with that. Well, in the sense that I do think the active noise cancellation is even better now than it was before. And that's actually saying quite a lot, because it was fantastic on the original AirPods Max. The ANC was really great on those. So for it to be better, and I think it is, I'm really pleased with that. I mean, I have a very simple test. I'm sure it's not scientific in any particular way, but the way I test for ANC is I snap my fingers here next to my ear and see how much of that I can hear. Now, on the original, my original AirPods Max, I could barely hear the snapping, and I do it quite loud like that, if you can hear that. I could barely hear that, but I could still hear it. I found with these AirPods Max 2, I couldn't hear anything. It was completely silent. So in that, that made me think that yes, the ANC has improved. As I say, it was great before, it's even better now. So I'm really pleased with that development, because I use them a lot in fairly noisy environments, and to have pretty much the external noise blocked out is not what I want. And my original AirPods were great. These are even better. As regards the other features which the H2 chip now introduces, like what we've got, Adaptive EQ, although I think that was available before. What have we got? Spatial audio, personalized spatial audio, I should say, conversation awareness, live translation. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think you can also take a photograph with your iPhone, use them as a camera remote, something I have no intention of using, but it's there. They don't actually have the hearing test that the AirPods Pro 3 have. I read somewhere that that's because they don't actually go right into your ear, because they're over-ear headphones. Again, I've never used that, so I'm not bothered. But as regards those additional features, well, actually, to be honest, I don't really use many of them. The personalized spatial audio, yeah, I use that. I don't think that was on the original ones. I'm sure it wasn't. But so I'm used to it from my AirPods Pro. So it's nice to have it on these AirPods Max now. Conversation awareness, I never use that. I'm not particularly interested in that. The live translation, again, it's unlikely that I would use my AirPods Max for that. I might use my AirPods Pro 3, but I can't imagine I'd be having a conversation with somebody abroad, somebody on holiday wearing my AirPods Max for live translation. Unlikely, but I suppose it's there if you want it. So I have to say, when it comes to the H2 chip, and those particular features like conversation awareness and so on, it's not of particular interest to me. Now, I'm sure for some people who are buying AirPods Max or contemplating them, those might be important features that they would be looking for. And it's nice that Apple has brought AirPods Max up to the level of its other AirPods in that respect. So if you want things like conversation awareness, live translation, and so on, and you want to get the superior sound quality of the AirPods Max, then you can now do that. So overall then, what do I think about these AirPods Max 2? Is it worth upgrading from the original AirPods Max? Well, for me, certainly. For me, upgrading from my original ones, which I bought when they first came out back in, I think it was 22. So I've had them, 4 years. Yeah, I'm happy. I wanted to upgrade. I wanted the better sound quality. Oh, I hope there was better sound quality, and there is. I want, although I was happy with the ANC, I'm more than happy to have that improved. Say, as far as the other things, H2 brins, not too bothered about those, but it's nice to have them anyway. So, yeah, for me, it was worth the upgrade, despite the fact that they are, the price was still quite steep, 500 quid basically here in the UK. But I was able to trade in or to sell my original copy, my original AirPods Max. So it didn't cost me the full £500. I got a decent price for selling my other ones. So for me, it was a worthwhile upgrade. I think if you're coming from the original ones already with the USB-C port, it might be not, you might not want to do that unless you particularly want the improved noise cancellation, and especially if you do want the features that the H2 chip brings, which of course you don't get in those original ones, even with the USB-C port. And of course, there is the price. They are quite expensive. I would say that, if you are like me, if you're an Apple fan, you have all Apple devices, Macs, iPads, iPhones, and so on, then, there's a big advantage in sticking with the Apple ecosystem, sticking with the Apple headphones, rather than going for some Sonys or some other make. But if you're not completely into the Apple ecosystem, then you can definitely get good quality hi-fi headphones with as good sound quality as the AirPods Max, but cheaper. And in that case, maybe you'd be better off going for those. But if you're a big Apple fan, you're into the Apple ecosystem, you have other Apple devices, then and you want some top quality headphones, then I'd say, yeah, definitely go for the AirPods Max 2.